Welcome back. Today we're talking about how to buy and refinance a property. Welcome back. My name is Marco. I'm a property investor, developer and mentor. And today we're talking about how to buy and refinance a property in the UK. So first of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's define what is a refinance. It's a question I get asked all the time, but it's really simple and it's really easy. So refinancing is essentially moving from one mortgage to another mortgage. It's as simple as that. It's often called a remortgage. So refinance or remortgage is the exact same thing. So I've got a video that's all about refinancing and remortgages, and it tells you exactly how to do it, what to expect and what to think about. So I'm going to link to it in the description, and here's a picture of the thumbnail. Do watch this video afterwards and it'll give you a bit more idea and a bit more detail about how to undergo a refinance. So first of all, before I tell you how to buy and refinance a property, first of all, let's understand why we should do this. When should we do this and why it's really important to consider refinancing. So I'd argue the main reason you want to refinance is you want to pull out the cash in that property and then invest that cash in another property purchase and simply repeat the process. And this is one way you can fast track and build a successful property portfolio. And we're going to go into an example today on how to actually do this. Now, this is one reason why I love refinancing, but there are other more standard reasons to refinance. So let's say, for example, we've purchased a property with a mortgage. Maybe we fixed that mortgage for 2 years. Now let's fast forward, say 18 months, and that mortgage is coming up for expiry. So we have to remortgage or refinance onto a new mortgage, because if we don't, after 2 years, that property will transition what's called onto the variable rate, which is typically more expensive. And we don't want to be paying this higher variable rate when maybe we could fix for another 2 or 5 years at a better rate and save some money. So I love refinancing because if you have added value to a property, you can refinance and pull the cash out. Or if you've let time do its magic and that area has undergone significant capital appreciation, maybe you haven't even touched the property, maybe you haven't even picked up a paintbrush, but just because the values in those areas have increased significantly, you can refinance and again pull that cash out and invest that cash into something else. So there's 2 options on how to do this, and we're focusing on more the investment property side, the buy-to-let side and the bridging side, not really so much your own residential home, okay? Maybe I'll do another video about that if there's demand for it, so please do comment if you think that can be of value. So let's stick to the buy-to-let side first of all, then we'll come on to the bridging example. So first example, let's say we've purchased a property, an investment buy-to-let property, and let's just say we've purchased this with a mortgage and I don't know, we've got a 5-year fix, let's just assume that. Fast forward 4.5 years. Well, we've got 6 months to run on our current mortgage before that then expires and it lapses onto the expensive variable rate. So, we want to think about doing something here, don't we? We want to maybe refinance onto another fix and maybe lock in a really good rate. Now, that's the most common option that investors come across. However, I'm going to propose a slightly different version. Let's say in the first instance we bought this property and let's say we fixed for 5 years, but let's say we're only 3 years into our mortgage, but we want to refinance early. And the reason why we want to refinance early, for example, could be we've added value to the property, but not only that, values in those areas have skyrocketed in this past 3 years. Take, for example, in the past couple of years, 2020 and 2021, they've been absolutely crazy years for property prices. You wouldn't have had to do anything to your property. You would have seen the value increase in your property, and you could simply just refinance and take out a bit of cash and reinvest that cash and start earning more money. So let's say we want to refinance early, which is something I urge all investors to consider doing, even if it means paying a fee to do this. Now, for those of you that are familiar with mortgages, if you refinance early, then you have to pay what's called an early repayment charge, and each lender will state this charge in their mortgage offer, and they all vary quite wildly, to be honest. But let's say you've got to pay maybe a 2% fee, a 2% of the loan fee to exit this mortgage early, so you can maybe take out that cash, the equity that's in the property, and reinvest it into something else. So let's say, for example, if you're able to pull out, let's chuck some figures out there. Let's say you bought a property for £100,000. In today's terms, it's worth £150,000, and you want to pull out some of that additional value. And if you're working on a 75% loan to value, then you can pull out 75% of the value created in that property. And the value we've created, we bought it at 100, it's now worth 150. It's a £50,000 difference there. So we can pull out 75% of £50,000, which is £37,500. Now here's the thing, let's say we want to pull out this £37,500, but we have to pay a fee to do this. We have to pay an early repayment charge to our mortgage lender. And let's say, again, we purchased this property originally for £100,000 at a 75% loan to value. So our current mortgage is £75,000, and this is interest only, so we're not paying back the capital. So this £75,000 isn't going to decrease because we're just serving the interest on this loan, not the capital. So let's just say the lender charges us 2% as an early repayment charge to exit this mortgage early. 2% of £75,000. Well, what's that? It's £1,500. Now, I think that's a fee worth living with. Would you? I'd happily pay a £1,500 early repayment charge to take out £37,500 for me to invest this into something else, and that £37,500 over here that I invest can certainly earn me more money than that £1,500 early repayment charge that I have to pay in order to do this. So this is why I tell all investors, consider remortgaging early, because if you can pull out that value, and it's a substantial amount of value for you to reinvest and earn even more funds and earn even more money, then why wouldn't you? So that's the first option, which was to consider remortgaging early, paying that early repayment charge, but taking out that cash, investing it and delivering a higher return. Now let's come on to the second option, the bridging option. Well, let's assume we've purchased a property with bridging finance. And if you don't know what bridging finance is, I've got a really good video that explains bridging finance, full process, and I'm going to link to it in the description. Here's a picture of the thumbnail. Do watch or consider watching this video again after you've finished watching this video. So let's use the example. We've purchased a property using bridging finance. And as we know, bridging finance is a short-term method of finance, but it's a very expensive method of finance. So you're charged interest on a monthly basis rather than an annual basis like normal mortgages. So we bought a property using a bridge. Let's say we've added value to the property. We've put in a new bathroom, we've put in a new kitchen. This property is now habitable, and therefore this property is now mortgageable. Whereas before, mortgage lenders were unhappy and not willing to lend on it because it wasn't habitable. Because we, as savvy investors, we fixed this problem. It's open to a large pool of lenders that are willing to lend on it at a really good rate. So we need to now exit this property and go off our bridging finance, leave our bridging finance and go onto a normal standard mortgage, long-term debt at a really good rate. So this is one way how to buy a property and to refinance, and you're refinancing from your short-term expensive bridging finance to your long-term cheaper mortgage. And you can only do this because now the property is mortgageable, whereas prior it wasn't mortgageable and you could only purchase it in the first instance using bridging finance or using cash. So these are two examples on how to buy a property and then to refinance a property, and both examples are really good ways to actually make money in property and get into property, and especially the latter option as well. If you purchase a property with bridging finance, typically speaking, if you're getting it at a really good discount, you don't actually have to put in that much cash because the bridging lender is willing to lend on the market value up here, not necessarily the purchase price, which could be down here. Whereas if you're buying with a normal mortgage, that isn't the case. If you're buying with a normal mortgage, lenders will only lend based on the purchase price, not the market value. So to summarize here, we essentially are refinancing at a new higher value to pull out this cash so we can go again, we can reinvest this cash elsewhere and just rinse and repeat the process. So as you can see, it becomes very easy to scale a property portfolio or even a flipping business by sticking to this process and sticking to this business model. Now let's come on to something really important, which is the 6-month rule. There are still a lot of investors out there who think that you need to wait 6 months from purchasing a property over here to financing the property 6 months down the line. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of lenders that have this rule as well, and they insist that there must be at least a 6-month period. However, nowadays there are a good handful of lenders to choose from that will mortgage a property and finance a property in a time frame that is less than 6 months. So don't feel that you have to wait 6 months to finance or refinance a property. There are lenders out there willing to do that in a shorter time span. So you're still struggling with the concept of how to buy and then refinance a property, or maybe you're still struggling with the idea of refinancing your existing properties to pull that cash out and invest that cash in order to make more money and grow your portfolio. But not only grow your portfolio, fast track your portfolio in as little time as possible. If you are, I would love to help. Head to my website, www.ms7.uk, book a call with me. As you can probably tell, I'm very passionate about helping people invest in property and scale a portfolio and learn from all the lessons and mistakes and learn from my experience and maybe scale that portfolio in a number of years rather than 10 or 15 or 20 years. So do head to my website and book a call with me. And for those of you that are subscribed to the channel, you know every Tuesday and every Thursday at 2 o'clock I release a full-length video, so do stay tuned for that. And for those that haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Please do consider subscribing. It does mean a lot to me, it really does. Please do consider subscribing. YouTube tells me the majority of people watching this video are not subscribed. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you now understand how to buy and refinance a property in the UK, and I wish you all the very best with your property investing. Goodbye.